Hello, I'm Alex Mozet. Welcome to a special breaking news session of Winner Take All. We have finally gotten our hands on the FTC complaint against Amazon, going after it for kind of monopolistic practices and trying to, I don't think they're going to be able to break up the company, but certainly to hamper and put more regulation and protections on their certainly blatant abuse of monopolistic power, something that we've talked for years, probably over 5 years now, getting old, gang, about Amazon's monopolistic positioning as a marketplace. And this is hopefully probably the best step forward by a U.S. body of power to limit Amazon's power. During COVID, we had a lot of rumbling out of Congress. We did live streams for multiple hours of the House Judiciary meeting. If you remember, leading up to the election, the midterm election in fall of 22, there was a lot of rumblings in the House and in the Senate to get legislation passed to rein in big tech, which would have applied to Amazon and other tech monopolies. That ultimately got scuttled. The excuse was, the election and we had other priorities going on. But it was just a cop-out. These congressmen and women on both sides of the aisle are bought and paid for. Everyone's complicit. There's just too many people and lobbyists and senators and congressmen that are in the pocket of big tech. Unfortunately, that's just the state of America and the world. Too much money going around on these topics. So now we've got the FTC filing a lawsuit going through the judiciary branch to try and get something going here. The legislative branch stalled. I want to give credit to the NAW, the National Association of Wholesale Distributors. This is a topic that they have long been working on in DC to pursue Amazon, to rein in Amazon's abuse of power, either through legislative or judiciary means. And they were heavily involved in what was happening that I was just talking about on the legislative side. And certainly their efforts, I would imagine, have contributed quite positively to the developments that we've seen from Lena Khan's office at the FTC. So what is it that she actually put together, her and her team? And do we think it'll be successful? We on the show, at least 5 years now, we're putting together a highlight reel to pat ourselves on the back because we deserve all the credit that we give ourselves on this topic to say that the real abuse of power and the real argument to make, the real legal argument to make to go after Amazon is have two customers. They have a consumer and they have a producer. But the producer is also a customer. If you think about Amazon, who does Amazon make money from when you buy something on Amazon Marketplace? Yeah, you pay Amazon. But ultimately, where does Amazon make their money? It's actually not from the consumer. It's actually from the seller. They take a take rate from the seller. And now, as we've seen over the years, because of their monopolistic power and positioning, they now force the sellers to use Amazon fulfillment. They now have forced the sellers to buy ads if they want to stay relevant. And they steal the seller's data to copy the seller's products via Amazon Basics and just literally rip the product and make their own version of it. We've covered that on the show a myriad of times. And also force pricing agreements on the sellers that advantage Amazon and disadvantage the seller and disadvantage other competitors to Amazon. All those points I made, except for the Amazon Basics ones, are in this complaint. I'll go through the complaint. There's kind of 5 key areas of the complaint. Talks about the pricing policy, right? Which was this thing that Amazon has now tried to phase out because they knew it was bad. And they were getting caught for it. But now they've phased it out. So their defense is going to be, well, we stopped doing this, Judge. So this one's going to be a little bit weaker to win on. But basically, Amazon told the sellers, hey, you have to put your lowest price for the product on Amazon, and you can't give anyone else a lower price like Walmart. And if you do, we'll kick you off of Amazon. And they papered it, and they put it right into their seller agreements. And they could only do that because they're a monopoly. This Project Nessie thing, there really isn't much information on it, so we don't really know much about it. But it also seems to be somewhat kind of discount and pricing related. Then there's the fulfillment bucket of the complaint, which is saying, hey, Amazon forced sellers to use Amazon fulfillment if they wanted their product to be, basically promoted or seen by any consumers, right? If you're not using Amazon Prime and you're not using Amazon fulfillment as a seller, yeah, you could list your product on Amazon, but no one's really going to see it. No one's really going to buy it. Ads is the other thing. Amazon's forcing sellers to pay a bunch of money on advertising if they want their product to stay relevant. When I use Amazon, yes, I admit I still unfortunately use Amazon on occasion. I deliberately don't click on any ads. I deliberately scroll farther down to click on the regular listing rather than clicking on the ad, which is, again, where Amazon's making money off of the seller. And then this last one is the key here. And we've cited this data similarly in the past. The FTC says that Amazon controls over 60% of the volumes. If you are a seller selling products online, you say Amazon has over 60% of that market, right? So when you add up the size of whatever Walmart has with third-party sellers, and then basically the other vertical specific marketplaces like a Goat or a StockX for sneakers, or an Etsy, or these other kind of small eBay. You add up all those volumes. We did this like years ago. The number was over 70%. FTC has basically did the same analysis. Wonder if they watched our stuff and said Amazon has over 60% market share. I think where the FTC is going to fall down on this is they still are conflating, like they're still distracted. They're still trying to make the two-step argument, the pun for our distributor audience, that, Amazon takes advantage of the seller, which also hurts the consumer. They should honestly just shed that whole argument. It just distracts. It just exhausts. You got to stay focused on these lawsuits, right? If you try and fish and you try and just like throw the kitchen sink, the judge isn't going to like it. And then Amazon lawyers are just going to like beat you down on these things. You gotta really stay focused. If it was me, I wouldn't even talk about the consumer at all. I would purely just say the seller is a customer. We, for years, have had now many internal memos and documents from Amazon. This is what came out during the House Judiciary proceedings a couple of years ago, that Amazon has paper documents showing them saying our sellers are vitally important to our success and our sellers are our customers. All these things. Who's paying Amazon? The take rate to sell the product on Amazon. The services fee to store and use Amazon fulfillment. The advertising money to advertise on Amazon. All that is money from a seller to Amazon. It has nothing to do with the consumer. Basically, 4 of the 5 arguments that the FTC put forward, and the 5th one is this Project Nessie thing, which we don't really know anything about. 4 of the 5 arguments that the FTC put forward are basically saying, are focused on the seller, but the FTC still like sneaks the consumer thing in there. Just forget it, FTC. Just take it out. Just go hard on the seller. Amazon sellers are their customers. Look at all these 4, like impossible to argue when you're focused on the seller. Impossible to argue things that Amazon's a monopoly, that only a monopoly would be able to force these sellers to do these things, to contractually agree that they will give Amazon the lowest price, to use Amazon fulfillment, to pay Amazon billions of dollars in ads. They didn't even bring up the fact that Amazon Basics is literally copycatting the products from their sellers and just ripping them off. I mean, it's blatant copyright infringement. Like, that should be their fifth argument. And then they've got the data to show that Amazon has a bona fide monopoly set by legal precedent. They have over 60%. Our numbers are frankly over 70%. That they clearly have monopoly. If you're a third-party seller, Amazon is the large majority of the market. And that is what then gives Amazon the ability to force you to do all these other things and still work with them, even though they copy your stuff. So I would give, on a scale of 10, I'd give this complaint probably like a 7-8. A 7-8. It's a strong complaint. If they had ripped out the stuff about consumer distraction, if they had made the point about Amazon Basics and just really gone hard on seller. You can also have multiple cases, by the way, right? Like, you could have a case focus on the consumer, boom, have another lawsuit. You put it all in one lawsuit, start to distract and take away. You put those things together, I think you're in the 9s. But it's strong. But they're definitely open. The FTC is opening themselves up to things that Amazon could, I think, successfully refute, which then, kind of detracts from the momentum that they need to pull this thing off. This thing is going to be very political. It's going to be really difficult for the judiciary system to abstain from applying bias, where we've seen the judiciary system fail at, Lady Justice with the blindfold. Yeah, we've seen that blindfold. That blindfold's been coming off. The judiciary system's had a really tough time staying neutral. This one is going to be a very big challenge for them. All the more reason to really keep this case focused and just about the facts and really kind of bona fide arguments that can't, very, very difficult to argue with. I think the FCC has done a good job. 7-8. That's a review. If you like this topic, go check out our highlight reel of basically us talking about these same things for like at least 5 years. Go check that one out. It's a fun little highlight reel.